Glass blowing is the process of heating glass in a 1000-degree furnace so it is pliable. Artists shape the molten glass by using a blowpipe and many other tools. Artists can create different shapes of glass with an assortment of tools. Glass blowers can create functional glass such as furniture, bowls, or cups. Glass blowing can also be used to create pieces of art such as these beautiful and intricate flowers. Glass blowing dates back to 50 BC. The Egyptians used glass blowing to create figures and beads, as well as to glaze tiles and pottery. This was the earliest known record of glass blowing. For a long time, glass was only for the rich. This was due to the crude furnace technology that could only heat small amounts of glass at a time. It took years to refine the process and technology enough so that the lower class could afford the simplest forms. The Romans helped popularize glass blowing by spreading it to many different countries. In the 1960s, furnace technology improved and more amounts of glass could be heated. Now blown glass is affordable for all. With better technology, artists can create bigger pieces. Different glass blowers get into art in different ways. Sam Foreman, who currently works at Furnace Glassworks in Lakewood, Colorado, had a high school art teacher who was a glass blower. Foreman says he went to college for art but studied everything but glass. After college, Foreman went to the Pittsburgh Glass Center to get an education in glass blowing.
I'd say from training with some of the best glass artists in the world, just having a good work ethic.
Foreman creates many different forms of art. Some of the things he makes are genie bottles, flowers, pumpkins, and sculptural art.
That was from a lot of my training too at the Pittsburgh Glass Center. Having really awesome artists and people to learn from. I'd say like my first gallery was in Phipps Conservatory back in Pittsburgh, so like getting into your first gallery, having them sell your work was one of my first successes. And kind of continuing on that, like getting into shows and starting to show your work and sell your work, get into galleries. So yeah, do like the summer craft fairs, sell your work at those. That's kind of the greatest success in selling your work, I would say, as an artist. But I'd say my techniques are from all of the teachers that I've learned from over the years. I kind of take little pieces and tidbits from all my teachers and kind of mash them up into one. Glass blowing is one of those things where you can see 100 people do it, and 100 people are going to do it differently.
Many tools are needed to create blown glass pieces. The tools include blowpipe, puntee, shears, molds, paddles, crimps, jacks, tweezers, locks, and a blowtorch. A blowpipe, which is a hollow metal tube, is used to inflate the glass. Once the glass has been inflated, it is transferred to a solid metal pipe called a puntee. Once the glass is on the puntee, it is worked and shaped with other tools. The shears, which are similar to scissors, are used to cut the glass. Once the glass is fully shaped, the shears are used to take the glass off the puntee. Molds will add texture to the glass to make a more interesting final piece. Flatwood and paddles are used to flatten the glass. If the artist wants to add decorative texture, a crimp is used. The crimp is like big tweezers, but instead of the ends being pointy, they are flat and come in various patterns and textures. Jacks, which are like tweezers but with knife ends, are used to stretch and pull the glass. Tweezers, specially made for glass blowing, are used to pull the glass or add texture. To shape the glass into a sphere, the glass blower uses a damp wooden block. The blowtorch is used mostly at the end when taking the glass off the puntee. To create a flat bottom, the blowtorch is used to heat the glass so it can be flattened with the paddle. I interviewed Paige Elquinor, who is the marketing director at the Pittsburgh Glass Center.
In the 1920s, the city of Pittsburgh and the region was the center for all the marketing of glass for the country. So because they had a lot of natural resources here, like sand in the rivers, and there was an easy transportation system, so we were able to build a lot of glass factories along the rivers here in Pittsburgh. And later in the year, and it kind of died out when plastic came about, and the steel industry sort of took over here. The lighting for runways of airports, like I said, some tableware that you might have seen in the White House at many of the presidential dinners, industrial things, and a lot of tableware. The reason why I work here at the Pittsburgh Glass Center is that my family owned a glass factory in West Virginia where I grew up. And at that factory, they made a lot of tableware, pitchers and glasses. And my grandfather was a glass blower, my father was in sales. My grandfather blew glass on the floor and eventually became president of the company. And I thought that maybe his skills for blowing glass were inherent. So when I came to the Glass Center, I thought I will pick this up without a problem. And it's not nearly as easy as it looks. Glassmaking. Here at the Glass Center, we have 4 studios. One is the hot shop. That's where the glass blowing takes place. We have a studio called the Flame Shop, and in the Flame Shop, you make small sculptures. There'll be a torch on the table, and you melt glass rods and manipulate them into small sculptures. The kiln forming studio here, where it's a multi-purpose studio. And in that studio, you work with glass that's cold and flat, and you fuse it, or you can cast it into different 3-dimensional sculptures. And stained glass happens in that studio. And the final studio we have here is Cold Shop. And that's mostly where all of the glass that you've made in other studios, you take it there to finish it. So you'll polish off the rough edges, or maybe you'll add some etching.
This is one of the first things that I made at Furnace Glassworks. This is a paperweight. To create this, you add 2 different colors to a blob of molten glass. Then you stretch and pull it with tweezers to create a cool swirly design. Then you cover it in another blob of molten glass so that your cool design is on the inside. This is a cup that I made. To create the cup, first you will inflate a bubble of glass. Then you will use the jacks to make a hole in the top where the top of your cup will be. Then you can use the tweezers to smooth out the sides and get it into the shape you want. Once it's taken off the punchy, then a stamp can be used to hide where it was so it's less noticeable. This is a suck bowl. To create this, the artist will inflate a bubble of molten glass. Then the artist will suck in all the air from the bubble so that it deflates on itself to create this cool double-layered bowl. This is another example of a suck bowl that I made with Sam Foreman. For this suck bowl, instead of adding a texture with a mold, we used 2 different colors to create the speckled effect. Not everything you create has to have functionality. You can just create things that are artistic or look cool. Like example, we have this flower that I made. To create the petals, you stretch them with the tweezers into the shape that you want. To create the stem, you can add a blob of molten glass to the bottom of the flower and let it drop down with gravity. Then if you want, you can leave it straight, or you can use the tweezers to add a curl to it like this flower here.